Boeing Starliner has been facing lots of technical problems for years now, and it has never been rated as a capsule NASA can fully rely on. Even though NASA has spent over $500 million taxpayers' hard-earned money to make the capsule work flawlessly, partial software malfunctioning has been frustrating Starliner's program, but Boeing keeps pushing to resuscitate the capsule each time it fails. Although the Starliner has been sucking lots of cash from NASA, yet NASA won't want to give up on it. NASA sees a future where the Starliner can transport their astronauts to and from the ISS, alongside SpaceX, which has been making NASA proud through their successful launches. Ride with us as we walk you through the perfect measure Boeing has strategized to launch the always-failing Starliner and dock it to the ISS successfully this year. While SpaceX and Boeing are competing to win NASA's heart by successfully transporting its astronauts to the ISS, Boeing has been drawn backwards on the race. Of course, NASA has been drained financially, wasting millions of dollars into Starliner's fruitless maintenance. Even though NASA has invested nearly $5 billion in both Boeing and SpaceX to develop and launch its astronauts to the ISS, SpaceX has gracefully emerged as the most productive company since SpaceX has won 14 missions, while Boeing struggles to garner 6 missions. Yet Boeing have not been able to launch crew members sitting inside the Starliner and dock them to the ISS before. And oh yes, on May 30th, 2020, SpaceX successfully docked NASA astronauts inside the Crew Dragon capsule of the International Space Station, and the mission marked the first time that astronauts have been launched into orbit from America's soil since the Space Shuttle program retired in 2011. And that led to a great turnaround for NASA to believe that their astronauts would make consistent visits to and from the ISS, so long as SpaceX keeps its legacy as a frontier company take over space. Now, you can say that NASA is SpaceX's largest competitor, and you wouldn't be wrong. So long as SpaceX continues to win in several space ventures, the company will have a good chance to earn millions of dollars from NASA's pocket. However, it seems Starliner will speak a positive language this year, as Boeing is ready to turn a new leaf. The company claims it's all set to dock the Starliner in the ISS, and this time without any flaws or dock failures. Let's hope that in 2023, NASA will believe in Boeing's technical capacity. Or will the Starliner fail again on this launch, break NASA's heart, and flush maintenance launch preparations costs worth millions of dollars down the drain? Let's wait until April to see how Boeing perseveres to prove us wrong and succeed. Flashing back to why NASA awarded the crew flight program to Boeing in the first place, knowing fully well that the company will struggle to succeed in the first place, since Boeing doesn't have a track record of successful launches to and from the ISS. NASA entrusted Boeing and awarded the contract for the CST-100 Starliner spacecraft to the company in September 2014 as part of its commercial crew program. The goal of the program was to develop a unique and generational rocket that can fly astronauts to the ISS in hopes to end NASA's reliance on Russia for crewed missions, especially now that Russia and the US are not on good terms. The idea behind this contract was for the spacecraft to have the capacity to carry up to 7 astronauts to and from low Earth orbit. Unfortunately, the CST-100 Starliner program encountered a number of operational challenges, which led to its launch delays and strenuous phases in development and deployment. Among the most important challenges are technical challenges. During its first unmanned test flight in December 2019, the Starliner spacecraft encountered software issues that prevented it from meeting its mission objectives. The spacecraft took off to the ISS in May 2019, but on its way to the ISS, 2 of Starliner's 12 main thrusters failed, and the spacecraft's temperature control system also malfunctioned. And even though it is docked with the ISS without crew, it was forced to return to Earth earlier than expected because of the persisting fault. After the test flight, NASA conducted a thorough review of the program, identifying a number of technical issues that needed to be addressed before crewed missions could begin. Again, regulatory stumbling blocks was another challenge. The Starliner program has also encountered regulatory stumbling blocks and delays in obtaining the necessary approvals from NASA and the Federal Aviation Administration to begin crewed missions. The need to address technical issues and ensure the safety of astronauts and the spacecraft have caused these delays. COVID-19 pandemic that slowed down the world's economy was also a stumbling block to the most Starliner's operation. The pandemic made the Starliner program run slowly, just like a snail walk, causing testing and development activities to be delayed and disrupted. The pandemic has also caused delays in obtaining the necessary regulatory approvals and certification. These difficulties have hampered the Starliner's program and delayed the launch of the crewed mission. In spite of these challenges, NASA and Boeing are jointly working hard to resolve the issues and move the program forward. Boeing now intends to launch the first crewed flight of its Starliner capsule, a 2-astronaut test flight to the International Space Station, no earlier than April 2023, 2 months later than previously planned. When NASA started the Commercial Crew Program, the idea was to give the agency options for getting astronauts and logistics to and from the ISS. The initial idea was to have 3 providers, but was shoved down to 2, Boeing and SpaceX, as recommended by the U.S. Congress for crew delivery services. The real reason why NASA handed the crew mission contract to SpaceX and Boeing was not put all its eggs in one basket. If there was any issue with one provider, the other could pick up the slack, pressure on amidst the odds, and reach the ISS. The wisdom of having options was clearly demonstrated with the Commercial Cargo Program when both providers had issues. Of course, Starliner had development issues, but the other providers had a headway to the ISS, making sure all the funds invested wasn't a waste. NASA's officials are having high hopes that this coming launch will be successful, as NASA's officials wrote in an update. Starliner and the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket hardware remain on track for readiness in early 2023. NASA and Boeing joint team continues to close out of the OFT-2 anomalies and partner closely together to identify forward work and ensure all requirements for crewed flight are met. The arranged crew members for the next Starliner's crew flight test are NASA's astronauts Barry Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams. The mission is expected to last about 2 weeks, more than twice as long as the 6th day of OFT-2. If all goes well with the coming flight, Starliner will likely be certified for operational mission, which Boeing will start flying under a contract it signed with NASA in 2014. If spacecraft production and rocket space travel is anything to go by, then it would be easier for any space company to reach orbit without rocket failure. Boeing changed management a number of years ago from being a company that built its reputation on engineering excellence to a company that threw it away with profit and price hikes being its only concern. Thankfully, NASA's designers are still excellent and can even tolerate a good measure of poor manufacturing, but assembling production has collapsed to being a tragic joke. But it doesn't drive us with a shock when a whistleblower snuck a camera into the factory and many of the workers stated that they would never dare to fly in anything they built. At this point, Boeing may be following the footsteps of Disney, a very large corporation with a lot of experience, but for some reason have gone completely bonkers, losing billions through garbage product, which of course doesn't impress their fans. The idea here is that while Disney can silently ditch out crappy movies for us to see and television series, it would later be edited as bloopers. But that's contrary to Boeing. A screw-up can lead to people losing their lives, putting families into pain and losing their loved one. Boeing needs to get rid of any amateur employees infesting the company and abruptly rule out invaluable ideology completely. For now, let's relax and see what happens to the Starliner during the forthcoming launch. But somehow, if the Starliner becomes successful this time, then a lot of gross incompetence may have been erased from Boeing's production process. What ethics could Boeing keep to fly the Starliner to the ISS? Meanwhile, SpaceX has revealed its new Stage 0 upgrade that will change everything and even win the space race. Click on the video to know more.